So when I got out of school in 2020, I had over $100,000 in student debt. Yeah, so for example, I took out like 10 grand each year for like 10 years going to school or more. I feel like I wasted a lot of time going to school. Part of it, you had to like take electives or prerequisite courses to get into some of the courses you needed for the degree I was going for. So it wasn't just like you had to take the specific curriculum. I had to take like pre-calc before I could get into calculus, and I had to work my butt off in that course, because if I didn't get an A in that course, I would have had to have taken another course, for example. And with that, I spent every day in the math lab studying, and after every class I was reviewing what we went over in class. And anyways, yeah, by the time I got out of school, I never even finished my degree, but by the time I got out of school, I had over $100,000 in debt, and seeing that I didn't have a degree, I wasn't able to get better paying jobs so that I could pay back that debt. Some of it was private debt, for example, debt from banks that loaned me money. Like half of it was private debt and half of it was government student loan debt, which is like the hardest debt to get rid of. Most of my adult life I've been in school, and when I was working, I was only working like part-time. I tried many different jobs during the time I was in school, part-time and like in the summer and stuff. So I never really had like a career. I've done pressure washing for probably the longest amount of time, and it was a huge reason why I stuck with pressure washing is because my boss was flexible for my school hours, and I mostly worked in the summer, so it was convenient because I was off school during the summers. It also took me so long, or I was in school for so long, partly because I was only in school like part-time, sometimes like doing like 3 courses at a time. And I also had to do upgrading, like math and English. So it took me a long time. I hated school, but I liked the social aspect. I liked meeting people my own age, and like there was cute girls in school, which helped. Anyways, by the time I got out of school, I had over $100,000 in debt, and I was like, well, it'd be nice if I didn't have this debt. And when I considered my options, like for many years there had been talks about student debt relief and stuff, so I kind of had some hope there, which I think is the wrong way to go about it. But when it came down to it, the best option was to claim bankruptcy. I had no assets. It would erase over half of my debt. And housing is so overpriced that I'm not interested in taking out a loan in the next 7 years, for example. And you can, I believe, still take out loans potentially. Like, I have a credit card. I've been discharged from my bankruptcy for like a year now. But yeah, I have a credit card, and like I probably could take out a loan but I would be charged like higher interest rates, for example, I think is one of the larger drawbacks. But if I want to, like, I don't want to take out a mortgage because Canada has literally the most expensive real estate like bubble in the world, like worse than the 2008 GFC, Great Financial Crisis. And so I would never be able to pay off that house anyways. I'd be working for that to pay off that house for 60 or more years. In Canada, we have people that have had their amortization extended to 90 years. Like you can only apply for like a 30-year amortization, but when people haven't been able to repay it, banks have allowed to extend amortization to 90 years, which doesn't help people like me that would like to own a house one day, because if there was more houses on the market because people couldn't pay their mortgages and they'd have to default, that would prevent the housing bubble from being propped up. But the government doesn't want housing to go down, and so they're pretty much screwing over the younger generation. So if they want to let me take out $100,000 in debt and claim bankruptcy, so be it. Yeah, so like over $100,000 in debt. I didn't have a career or stable job or reliable income source. Then what do you really expect, right? So anyways, so with that much debt, like, what is a person supposed to do? Like, the best option is to claim bankruptcy. And I think back in the day, like, that claiming bankruptcy was really frowned upon, and maybe to some of you it still is really frowned upon, but large businesses and or corporations claim bankruptcy all the time to refinance debt, and it's a really useful tool, because if you're stuck paying back something that you're never going to be able to pay back, then you're essentially just a debt slave. Which in Canada, I think most people own like owe around over $72,000 in debt on average, or something like that. And I don't even think that was including their mortgage last I read. So just in credit card debt and things like that. Student debt maybe as well. But it felt so relieving to get that dealt with. Like schools and, well, actually I think that student debt should be able to be bankrupt, or you should be able to go delinquent on student debt, because investors are, like Wall Street investors, are preying on young people that are just looking to better their future, but said students are stuck with this debt, and a lot of them are coming out of school with degrees, unable to get jobs. Like certain jobs maybe are just like 90% of the degrees are pretty much useless, like an arts degree or gender studies or whatnot. So really it's just a bad deal for younger generation. But at the same time, I'm like looking at cybersecurity paths, and I really don't want to be a part of this Ponzi scheme of the centralized education system, but I am considering going back and finishing like a computer science degree in a couple of years to get into cybersecurity or whatnot, just because it's one of the only ways I could potentially escape Canada. Which is frustrating, you know, like I have family here and I like Vancouver Island, but this country doesn't care about the younger generation. So I don't want to contribute to providing service or value, unfortunately. And if I'm starting from zero anyways, why not start it somewhere that I actually want to build a future? The government here, they're bankrupt. The middle class is getting crushed. I wouldn't be surprised if they implemented something along the lines of taxing home equity. And that's a perfect way to get to owning nothing and being happy. And that doesn't sit right with me, so the best way to win is to not play at all, is how I feel about that. There's no incentive if you can't get ahead or you can't own anything one day. You're living to work. You're living to work. And I want to work to live. Anyways, if you enjoyed the content, please click like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.